Welcome to Austin Prep Presents. I'm Jennifer Hodgden. I'm the Director of Alumni Relations and Giving here at Austin Prep. And today I am joined by chef and alum from the class of 1996, Peter Agostinelli. And I'm also joined by Todd Moriarty, Director of Dining Services with Sage Dining here at Austin Prep. Today, we're going to have Peter walk Todd through some recipes for our family-friendly Super Bowl party. But before we get started, I'm going to have both Peter and Todd tell you a little bit about their culinary adventures before they got here to Austin Prep. So we'll have Peter take it away.
Hi, how are you, everybody? So I started cooking while I was at Austin. Worked at a little Italian restaurant called La Mia Cucina's in Woburn in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s. Then went to culinary school, Newbury College in Boston, and landed with Todd English after that. Worked for him for about 6-7 years in the city. Went up north to the Bedford Village Inn, was the executive chef, banquet chef up there. Bounced around Boston a little bit, and most recently was at Grill 23 and Bar in Boston, and just landed at LaBelle Winery in New Hampshire as their new culinary director. And we're launching about 4 new projects coming up this summer, so lots of moving parts. We'll talk a little more about that as we roll on today.
So I started my career as a dishwasher at the age of 14, working for a small catering company in Stoneham, Massachusetts. From there, worked my way into the kitchen, did a lot of off-site catering. Most of it was during the summers. We did some lobster bakes, cookouts, and that's where I spent most of my summer jobs. Going through high school, decided this is where I'm going to be. Went to UMass Amherst for the Hotel, Restaurant, and Tourism Administration program. From there, I moved on to New York City right out of college. I worked for a contract food service company. I worked at Salomon Brothers at 7 World Trade Center. Spent about 3 years in New York, and then kind of bounced around New England for the next many years, pretty much in the same contract field, and landed here at Austin Prep with Sage Dining just about 3 years ago.
I'm going to step out of the kitchen now, and I'm going to hand this over to our culinary experts here, and we'll wrap things up in a few minutes.
So the first dish we're going to do today, Todd, is a riff on a hummus. I know you said you guys sell a lot here. The students really seem to enjoy it.
Yes.
So this is something that's a little more, when I think Super Bowl, I think like nachos, that kind of Tex-Mex flavors, things along those lines. So this is a black bean hummus. So it still has your traditional Middle Eastern flavors, the tahini paste, lemon, raw garlic, things along those lines. But we are going to add some fresh cilantro, some green onions, and then we top it with a little bit of yogurt. And then we have some za'atar and turmeric in it. So za'atar is a Middle Eastern spice blend. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Sumac, thyme, sesame seeds, dried oregano, marjoram sometimes. And that's what's going to season the pita chips that we're going to serve with it.
Oh, great.
Toast it up. So first thing we'll do is just kind of rip those and get those into the brick oven. And you don't want to do them too big. You don't want to do them too small. There's nothing worse than a really big pita chip, and then that encourages people to double dip. So we're going to do these a little smaller and just toss them with our za'atar turmeric mix. Just have this a little more planned out. And some of extra virgin olive oil. The olive oil I use is a lightly fruity one. It's got a little bit of black pepper on the end, but it's really a nice high-end, high-quality one. And then so we're just going to toss these chips with a good amount of salt, pepper, and some of this turmeric za'atar blend. And the turmeric gives it kind of an earthy flavor and gives it a nice kind of bright yellow color too. So we'll see that, and then we can mix the hummus together while these are toasted in that oven behind us. If you're going to do this at home, you'd want to cook the chips probably in about a 350 degree oven so they don't burn. So here, the beautiful thing about the brick oven, the deck's reading about 580 right now. We'll just kind of keep them towards the front, move them around a little bit, and you're probably more familiar with that oven than I am.
Yes, cooked a few pizzas.
I'm sure you have.
I think on one of our busiest days, we've done about 230 whole pizzas out of that oven.
Oof. That's quite a bit.
Yes.
The good thing about this dish too is it's actually better if you make it ahead of time. So the chips I say make the day of, but I recommend the hummus make the day before. And what that'll do is that'll give the flavors really a chance to bloom out of it.
Sure.
Still getting my bearings in your kitchen. It's definitely a little nicer than when I went to Austin. We had the little snack. This was the snack shack right here. So this is where we used to come get our Otis Spunkmeyer cookies and the chicken nuggets and the whatnot. But
Yeah.
this is definitely a little bit of
Yeah, they did an amazing job just about 3 years ago. Totally.
So this is 3 years old now?
Yes. Yeah, totally gutted the place. Obviously, see beautiful dining room. The equipment that we have in the kitchen is all top of the line, so it
great.
really allows our culinary team to do an amazing job here.
Yeah, I was telling Todd when we first showed up that this kitchen in my 25 years in the culinary business is nicer than probably anyone I've worked in. So it's a nice, definitely a nice perk to have. So our pita chips are going to hang out there if you can help me keep an eye
Sure.
on those. And then, so for the hummus, we have 2 cans of black beans, rinsed, but a little bit of the liquid. So whenever you're using canned beans, they have that starchy liquid in them.
Yes.
If you leave too much of it in there, it's going to kind of a pasty like mouthfeel. So we like to leave a little bit in there to kind of help thicken it up. So we're going to start with our beans. And it's about 3/4 cup of tahini paste. So I'm just going to eyeball that. And once we taste it, we may want to put a little more. We may want to put a little less in there. Salt, pepper to taste. And garlic, I'm going to put 3 to 4 garlic cloves. These are pretty big ones. And I like to just give them a little head start. Just crush them a little bit. That way you don't get those missed little chunks in your
Yes.
hummus. So, we'll throw
Which I've
that in
had.
there. Yeah, we all have. And it kind of like breathes that fire into your mouth. It's about a teaspoon of ground cumin, and that gives it a nice little smoky flavor to it. Complements the cayenne that we're going to put in really nicely, about a half teaspoon of that. So that's pretty spicy. If you like your food really spicy, you can add a little more. If you want to make this hummus really, really kind of stand out and really fiery, you could throw some chipotle and adobo in there or something. And then we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of lemon in there. So you can use the jarred, the canned. I prefer fresh. I think it adds a lot of nice brightness to it. So I'm just going to roll these on the cutting board a little bit, and that's going to kind of punctuate this, the lemon segments, and you get more juice out of it that way. So just these are special lemons with no seeds. So not really.
Makes that process a little bit easier.
I wish they made those. So
There you go. There's your next
kinda-
venture. Find
Yep,
a way to grow lemons
exactly,
without
right?
seeds.
Maybe I should have paid more attention in that class. I don't think agriculture was on the books at Austin. And probably a little bit more. And again, we're going to, well, you know, whenever you make something, we're going to taste it and see where it's at. So we might want to add a little bit more of that. And then it's about a 1/4 cup of the cilantro, stems and tops. So about a 1/4 cup packed is what we're looking for. And again, we just want to give this a head start so that the stems don't get wrapped up around the food processor and just kind of spin incoherently. So we get that in there. Make me nervous. Keep looking at those chips.
No, I
I'm
know.
gonna
I
lose
keep
them.
checking back too.
Great. And then we are going to finish with a little bit of green onion in there also. So this is the fun part. We're going to buzz this all up in the food processor. And so we'll let this run just till it's nice and smooth. Sometimes you have to add a little water to it, cold water, to keep it rolling. But once it's kind of getting moving, that's when I want to put the olive oil in. So the recipe calls for about 4 tablespoons. So if you do that while the machine's running, it's going to get kind of incorporated a little more in there. And again, this is for a couple reasons. This adds a really nice velvety mouthfeel to it.
Yes.
But this really nice peppery olive oil will go really nice with everything we're serving. So our handy dandy rubber spatula. Kind of push all the ingredients down. So you can see it's still a little chunky in here.
Yep.
And we are going to just let this process a little more. This is a little bigger than most food processors people have at home, but you can make hummus for days in this. I do like, some people like their hummus to be really super smooth. When I'm doing a variation of it, something like this, I like to almost be a little chunky.
Yes, absolutely.
And you could throw, like the sky's the limit on this really, you could put like some kind of salsa, your favorite salsa in there. You could throw an avocado in there.
I was going to just suggest that,
Yeah,
yes.
you can replace, and then you'd replace some of the oil with that because it's that fat that'll kind of balance it out. So when we bowl this up, I like to garnish it with a little bit of Greek yogurt and then finish it with a little bit more of the za'atar and turmeric on it. So it kind of, it's like blends those like Southwest flavors and those Middle Eastern flavors together.
I'm a huge fan of cilantro, so
yeah,
almost anything I do has got that in there.
It's such a polarizing ingredient, though,
yes,
I feel like.
It is.
So we're going to give this a taste and kind of see where we're at. So I got the cilantro, I got the lemon. I think I want to put maybe just a little more lemon juice in there maybe, and a little more olive oil.
That's good.
I think salt's good.
Yeah, salt's good.
So we'll just get a little more acid in there. Acid's your friend. A little more salt. Maybe a little more cumin too. Smokiness. That's the beautiful thing about cooking. It's just, you just kind of do it however you want. It's great to follow a recipe, but you know, once you kind of master a certain technique, like you guys do it here all the time, you figure out how to make a really good hummus, and then you can just kind of tweak it up all you want. That's why I prefer not to bake. Not really.
It's more of an exact science than it is.
Yeah, I don't do well with recipes following them. As you can see, I'm not even following my own one very well right now.
But sometimes that's the best way. I mean, we encourage a team to actually modify. So using the same ingredients, but the quantities can change.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's palate's a little bit different. So the team will actually gather around a new recipe that we're making, and everyone will provide feedback because everyone's taste buds, some prefer more or less salt. So we kind of get a general consensus to try to meet the the needs of the large populace.
Absolutely.
But then we find by adding or detracting that we come out with a better product, and as you say, moving forward, we've added those modifications into our new recipes.
Absolutely, and that's the whole like recipes are just a guide mentality.
Yes.
So those are looking good, almost crisped up. So you can see that yellow color from the turmeric really kind of blooms on those, and I really like it. And it almost gives you that mustardy flavor that you get from that yellow mustard, and they get that, which gets its color from all the turmeric that's in there. Beautiful. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really nice.
That's perfect. Oh yeah.
So what we'll do is, so you can, if you were going to make this at home for your own Super Bowl party, you can definitely make this a couple days ahead of time, 1 to 2. I wouldn't go any more than 2, just because it does have a lot of protein in it, and those, the protein the beans would tend to spoil.
Yes.
So, this is a really nice.
It's got a great afterfeel in the mouth too.
Yeah, it's like just it's soft and it's like velvety almost, and that's the oil in there. And if you were to do, I think we were talking earlier, and I've been playing around with a lot of different hummuses lately. I like to do one with edamame.
Yes.
And in that, I like to put a lot of sesame oil. So as opposed to the olive oil, and it gives it, again, that same nice, rich mouthfeel. So we're going to put this in here. And again, depending on the bean, it's probably not the most appetizing color right now.
But you garnish it up nice.
Yeah, so, and what I like to do is, we'll kind of just move this out of the way. That there, my trusty recipe that I did not use. And I'd like to finish this with a little bit of this, like this is just plain Greek yogurt. And we'll just kind of put dollops on that. And that tanginess is really gonna go through. A little bit of olive oil. We'll even take a little bit more of
can't have enough cilantro.
cilantro, yep. And I really like the stems and the cilantro because that texture really kind of pops. And a little bit of this za'atar turmeric mix kind of makes everything kind of pop right in here. And here we have our black bean hummus. Some za'atar pita chips. We can put them right in here, which will be great. Beautiful. And maybe we can get Jen to come back over here and give this a try for us.
Absolutely. Looks delicious.
It's good, right?
I love black.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything with black.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is a relatively healthy dish, too. Now, if you want to make it unhealthy, you could deep fry the pita chips and then toss them in the spice mix and give them a really nice crunch. But, I mean, like we said, you could put some avocado in there, a lot of different things. Some roasted corn stirred into it for texture would be really nice. Again, you could do chipotles, you could do roasted poblanos, you know, you could crumble chorizo on it if you wanted something that's a little more for the meat eaters.
Party.
For the meat eaters at your party. You know, when I do the hummus at the restaurant, I like something crispy on it. So we, if it's a chickpea-based hummus, we'll always put fried chickpeas on top.
Nice, yes.
So you get that kind of crunch and the saltiness, and it cuts through that smoothness of the hummus. So, you know, eating is a very textural thing that I think sometimes people forget that. So that's why you always want something crispy with a dip and things along those lines. You could serve this with carrot sticks and celery sticks and cucumber rounds too to make it super healthy. The yogurt makes a nice, the yogurt makes a nice kind of like yum to zing through the fat in that dish too. So that is the final one. So this is the black bean hummus, za'atar pita chips. All right, Todd. So the next thing we're going to do are the brick oven roasted wings.
I'm looking forward to these.
Yeah, big fan of anything wing.
Yes.
I like to smoke them. I like to fry them. I like to roast them. The only thing I don't want to do is boil them. You know, so because it's all in that skin. You know.
Yes.
So these have been marinating for about 2 days now, 2.5 days. And they are marinated in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, really kind of crushed and mashed garlic clove, a little chipotle powder, smoked paprika, anything along those lines you want. I think we used smoked paprika in the recipe here.
Yep.
And then we get the disjointed wings, but the biggest thing is I try to use I like the tip, because especially when you're cooking with them in the oven, I'm going to just dip this in my sanitizer a little bit. The tip gets like really crispy and you can just kind of like gnaw on it. It's like when you go to dim sum in Chinatown and you get those like chicken feet and they're like deep fried and then coated in the sauce, so like crispy, and you just kind of like gnaw on them. So when you do this at home, you want to get your oven as hot as you can. Usually 550 is where home ovens get to. And open your windows and turn your smoke alarms off, because I live through that every day. Here, it's a little different. So what we're going to do is we'll put these probably right in the... Now, is there a hot spot on this oven?
Dead center.
Dead center, perfect. So we're going to start kind of to the side of these and kind of get them, because we want them to cook through before they get too dark. So we'll kind of leave them around there, play around with them, and then right when they're done, we're going to get them right up against that flame to get that skin kind of like really crispy. And, you know, I like to do a little play on wings, something a little different. So I like to serve these with a salad. Presentation is nice, it eats a little better, you're not dipping as much stuff. So if you got a mandolin at home, awesome. It's really kind of a really nice, sexy presentation when you get those vegetables really thin. If you don't, you can just kind of shred the carrots. You can buy like shredded carrots and chopped celery, almost more like a coleslaw presentation. Or you can kind of leave them rough and chunky too. It's all in, you know, textures and how you want to eat and stuff. I just think this is really nice and elegant. So what I'll do is I'll peel these down for you. Okay. And you can start shredding them. So the bigger the carrots, the better for something like this. So when you are at your grocery store, you want to try to find a big one, because then you have more room to slice through and you're not trying to deal with those little nimble carrots. You can even just use a vegetable peeler the whole way too. Once you peel the outer skin off, you know, that's another thing. You can just kind of keep going.
I was going to say, that's a simple way. I've done that at home. And
Yep. Yeah, if you don't want to do that. It's a little thin, you can see, so I kind of do prefer with the mandolin, you get a little bit thicker.
Okay.
And again, one of these, you have the julienne guard or a straight guard, whatever's more comfortable with you. You can kind of just go through. You can do the waffle, the crinkle.
Yep.
So it's kind of fun. You know, these are great tools. This is a French mandolin, the metal one. They tend to be a little pricier.
Yes.
You can go to the Asian markets and they have the Japanese mandolins, those plastic ones with the stainless steel blades.
Have one at home.
Yeah, those are great. And they're like, you know, usually you can get them for under $20. And just like you don't have to go to the Asian market anymore, you could always go to my favorite place in the world, Amazon.com.
Is it about the...
Yeah, that's beautiful. So we get these nice little like tidbits. And this will eat really well with a fork and salad. So these are definitely like knife and fork wings.
Nice. It's like basically making a carrot slaw.
Yeah, that's exactly. So it's really nice at that point. I'm going to take a peek at our wings and see how they're doing back here. I hear a little sizzle. Smells starting to come through now. It's really, really nice.
Oh yeah, I can hear those popping.
So now as far as the celery, I don't think it's going to work on the mandolin. So what I'll do is I'll just run a knife over this.
Okay.
We'll mix it all in, and this is the beauty of this. You can kind of do whatever you want with it. So this is just regular celery, washed from the supermarket, you know, and you can do a nice... And that carrot's going to give us the sweetness. It's going to go with that really kind of funky unctuousness of the blue cheese. Celery gives us a lot of earthiness. Celery is one of my favorite vegetables. I really feel like it is underutilized. And then you can take all these beautiful celery leaves and just toss them in the salad too.
I think it's a big mistake people make is that they trim like their vegetables too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they just need a good wash.
Yes.
That's all. Like these celery leaves are beautiful garnish. You know, they have that lovely, lovely flavor because they're so tender, you know, the yellow part.
Yeah.
Really nice. And
I think
it
people
adds
just
a different level.
used to seeing like packaged, they've got like, you know, your romaine is already cut and you've got, you know, your celery, it's just, you know, down to the stalk.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's funny too. It's like when you start talking about, you know, we deal with a lot of farmers up in New Hampshire, and when you start talking about the animals that were harvested and things along those lines, and people kind of get a little squeamish, and it's sometimes people forget that your meat doesn't just come from a supermarket in a package. So. So these wings, depending on your oven, will take anywhere from 10 to 22 minutes. You know, these guys are a little smaller too. You can do whole chickens, drumsticks in this marinade. I used to take whole like 3.5 pound roasters and soak them in this dressing, this buttermilk mix. I'm sorry, the buffalo mix.
Yep.
And then I would put them on my smoker.
Oh,
and
nice.
make buffalo chicken dip out of that. So it was really nice. So.
Like a simple trick that I do at home sometimes if I want to make a quick buffalo chicken dip is buy the roaster chickens.
Yep.
I've done that if I need them like last minute for a party.
It's great for like chicken salad or anything along those lines. I really like doing chicken salad with curry and mayonnaise.
Yes.
And I use those roaster chickens for that a lot. So here we go. We got a nice little carrot celery mix going on there. Just throw those leaves in there. So I'm listening to those wings sizzle away.
Yeah.
So these green onions we're just going to sprinkle on top to garnish, but we've got a fair amount of them, so I'll probably cut the whites a little thinner and we can throw those right into the salad.
Yeah, nice.
And so again, you know, you're having a party, you're having people over, you want to make sure you don't want to be cooking the whole time, hiding in the kitchen. So things like the salad, you can make the morning of. I wouldn't dress it until a little closer. The wings definitely marinate ahead of time, get them all slacked out in a sheet pan, ready to go. So you just have to fire them in the oven. You know, and we're just gonna season our vegetables, and this will pull a little bit of the water out of the vegetables and kind of help create the dressing.
Sounds so good in there.
Get a little bit of olive oil, and whatever extra virgin you like, but you definitely want to use a good oil for this. And then we're just gonna sprinkle in some crumbled blue. This is Gorgonzola Dolce, so it's from Italy. It's a little bit sweeter, it's a little more unctuous. So if you want to go ahead and start mixing that up, I'm gonna check our wings again. Yeah, these are looking good. So, you know, it's important to pre-oil your sheet pan too, because you don't want these things to stick to it, because the worst thing that happens if they stick is you're going to lose all that good skin.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, that looks really great. Move this out of here. We have this. So you can maybe put that in this here. We get it right nice around the edges.
Sure.
So you can kind of see the skin start to blister on those.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what we're looking for. They're kind of dancing back there all around on their own.
Nice.
That looks beautiful. So one thing, you know, if you can use any buffalo sauce you want for this recipe, I included the recipe for the one I like to use. Ours is a little sweet, a little spicy. So if you want to give it a taste, I put a lot of honey in mine, a little bit of cayenne, apple cider vinegar.
Oh, it's nice.
And it's still that Louisiana hot sauce
It's hot.
base.
But
it gives you a little bit, yeah, the sweetness really kind of goes well on it.
Yeah.
And you'll notice in the recipe I said I generally don't toss these wings because I don't want to lose all that crisp on the skin. You can. You know, you can cook these wings in an air fryer too. They get a little crispier that way. You can toss them in there. I just like to drizzle it on there. Comes out really nice. And then whatever kind of blue cheese you like to go with it. We make our own homemade one at the restaurant, but you know, Ken's makes a really good one. You can, Brianna's I like to use a lot at home. You know, sometimes people worry too much about making everything homemade, and you don't really need to. There's a lot of great products out there in the market. Okay, so these wings, what we're going to look for to make sure they're done, the camera can't see it, so I'll kind of talk through it a little bit, but you can see the meat starting to pull away from the bone. So that's how we know they're pretty much cooked through at this point. These dark meat, though, it tends to be a little tough, so I like to take these a little more. So if you use an internal thermometer, like 170, 180 almost is where you want to take it to get that connective tissue all broken down and everything. And you can see they're not really sticking, and they're looking really good. So we're going to push these back in and let them kind of crisp up a little more right by the flame. Then we'll put them on here, serve them with a little blue cheese, drizzle a little of that on there, and I mean, these are a great party wing.
You can't have a Super Bowl party without wings.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you'll be able to serve these here weekly, the weekend leading up there.
Definitely. We're definitely going to do that. We're going to do a little celebration here for our students, for teachers and faculty. So this is one of those items we'll definitely have on the menu.
I'm sure the teachers will remember, but the students won't remember the Patriots pre-Tom Brady. You know, when they weren't that good, kind of reminiscent of what they were this year. We had a conversation at work about it, how they were talking about, you know, so many of these kids these days, or even young adults, don't know what it was like in the doldrums of the days when the Pats would play at Schaefer Stadium. And I remember you'd go like open a checking account at Shawmut Bank and you'd get free season tickets to the Pats, and you'd be like, no, that's okay, you just keep those.
Yeah.
You know, they couldn't give the things away, so.
And it's much different now. Actually, I'm a season ticket holder.
Are you?
And I was on the wait list for 11 years.
That's crazy.
But
it's interesting to see, but I'm excited to see him make a comeback. You know, I think Belichick will bring them back to where they need to be.
Yeah.
I think COVID caused a few issues, obviously, with a lot of people sitting out. So the skin's starting to bubble up a little bit. We're just about where we want to be. And you can see all the fat that's kind of rendered out of the wings.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things we're looking for. You know, I think if we take these much further, they're going to get really kind of dry. So I think we're exactly where we need to be. So I'm just going to grab these.
And you were saying prior to the Pats being good, I mean, the best thing about the Super Bowl was
the food.
The food.
Yeah.
You really didn't have any skin in the game per se, so it was all about, you know, getting together with the friends, enjoying great food, enjoying some great commercials.
It's, you know, and, you know, you'd still look forward to the halftime show and all that, and I almost feel like when the Patriots were in the Super Bowl, I tended to not enjoy the party aspect as much because you're more focused on the game.
Yes.
So, either way, I'm excited to see Tom Brady go. I know there's a lot of diehard fans that don't want to see him make it there, but I think he's an incredible player, and I think he's done a lot of good for the New England area, and people shouldn't forget that either.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
But these wings just smell crazy good.
They do smell so good.
Like that. And then what I like to do too is you get all this, you can see like this oil that's come off, and the schmaltz and the chicken fat that's come from the pan. And I do like to, I don't want to lose that because there's so much flavor in there. So you try to find that healthy balance of, you know, healthy and not healthy. So I just like to just take a little bit and just kind of
give it a little drizzle.
Yeah, a little bit of love on there. And that'll kind of sop in, and so.
The meat eater's olive oil.
Yes, exactly. You know, there's nothing better. People kind of forget how things like schmaltz and beef tallow and bone marrow just add such great flavor. So what I like to do is then, you know, just liberally dribble the sauce on because you don't want to lose that. And then I usually serve a little more on the side for the heavy dippers. And again, small wings, just like small pita, less double dipping.
Yes.
You know, and especially whereas we're in these different COVID times now, you know, we find ourselves doing a lot of buffet presentations a little different. I'm sure you guys are doing it here now. A lot more individual plates.
Yes.
So you could lay out, you know, small B&B plates and a little bit of the salad, 1 or 2 wings on there for people, so you don't have to worry about them, you know, kind of doing that. So yeah, these wings are great. I'm going to spare Jen from eating one on camera because they are a little messy. But yeah, so these are the sweet and smoky buffalo wings, celery blue cheese salad, a little carrot, chunky blue cheese dressing, and a little more of the sauce. So
can't wait to try them.
Oh, we almost forgot our green onions.
Garnish. Beautiful.
Boom. And that's that. All right, so our last recipe for the Super Bowl party, sausage, pepper, and onion dip.
Ooh.
One of my favorite things. It's, you know, and you get out of that Fenway after the Red Sox hopefully win. They don't do that too much anymore. But back when they used to, we'd go to a lot more games, and you know, you stumble out of the park, you know, after sitting in those uncomfortable seats, especially for me, for about 3.5 hours, and, you know, you're walking to your car, and the first thing you want is you smell that, like, and it's that roasted pepper and that, like, greasy sausage, and I don't care what meat is in that thing, like, I'm ready to go. So this is kind of my interpretation of it. It's a super fun Super Bowl type dip. Gives people those familiar flavors presented in a different way. This is kind of like, remember when like buffalo chicken stormed the scene, buffalo chicken dip, everybody had wings the whole time, and then all of a sudden buffalo chicken dip became like the newest thing. So this is kind of a riff on that. My friend Mike Humzinger made this last week at his house, so I kind of totally stole the idea from him. and I was told directly that I need to give a shout out to Jay Dowd during this presentation. So Jay Dowd was an alumni of Austin Prep, class of '69, and then was a teacher here for a number of years. Then he was Jen's predecessor, I believe, in her current role. He's also my uncle, which is how I ended up at Austin Prep when I got into a little bit too much trouble in some other schools. My parents shipped me off for Uncle Jay to keep an eye on me. And the reason I bring up Uncle Jay, because his wife Susan, who is dearly loved in the Austin community and family too, is affectionately referred to in our family as the Queen of Casseroles. So this is kind of a riff on that for her, and so there's the shout out to the Dowds. I didn't know how I was going to fit him into this piece, but I was given a directive too, and so there you go. Uncle Jay, I'll make you a sausage pepper dip anytime you want. Don't tell Mom all those stories that Tom Comery told you. So we're going to do some baguettes here, crostini. You can really do potato chips with this, tortilla chips, vegetables, again, those pita chips would be good. You can really do anything. I like to do these, and I like to leave them kind of a little bit on the thicker side. Okay. So a little squishy inside, but still crispy on the outside. Yep. The big thing is you just want to put some kind of fat on there, whether it's butter or olive oil or just canola oil is fine too. And then a little bit of salt and pepper, much like, I think it's kind of the forgotten ingredient in a lot of people's worlds for little things like this. So we're going to fire these off into the brick oven, kind of the same way we do with the Peter. If you can keep an eye on them, just kind of towards the end here. We don't want them to get too toasty, but we're looking for a little golden brown and delicious. So the dip is super easy. I knew we weren't going to have a stove here, so I did a little pre-prep ahead of time. So Italian sausage links taken out of the case, sauteed down with 1 onion, small dice, and a few garlic cloves. Just kind of really sweat it out. And so that's kind of the basis for our dip, and just crumble that up. And you can see all that fat that's in there on purpose, because that's kind of one of our binders too. So that's the first ingredient. And then we're going to hit some softened cream cheese in there. I'm a Philadelphia guy. Any brand works. If you want to do it quick and you're in a shortcut, buy the whipped stuff. Yep. You won't have to let it soften up. Sour cream is about 1 cup we're going to put in there. And about 1 teaspoon or so of crushed chili flakes. You can put as many as you want in, as little as you want. And then a little bit of dried basil and oregano to give it a little oomph too. You can use fresh. I find the dry actually works better in this application. The dried basil tends to be a little sweeter. And the dried herbs, kind of their flavor is more muted. Yes. It's not as like in your face. So another thing you can garnish this with is you could sprinkle a little fresh oregano and fresh basil on top if you wanted to. But that kind of dried flavor gives it that that flavor we're looking for, that really kind of muted. And
then with the fats from the sausage, it really
and the fat almost kind of like rehydrates those leaves a little bit. And then so we have some peppers that are roasted a little bit earlier in the brick oven, and we just want to kind of dice those up. And peel them, take the seeds out. There's a little bit of peel left on here, but you know, it is what it is. You can use canned peppers. I highly advise against it for this recipe. Canned peppers do have their place in the kitchen. I use them all the time. They're good for sauces and purees, and throw them in braises. If you're braising like pork belly for a Cuban or something like that. But you know, the fresh ones just have so much more flavor to them, all the oils that are in there. And that's why you'll see some people, when they peel a pepper, they're so caught up on getting all the skin off them, they don't want to leave any on there, that they'll rinse them under water, and you're just losing all that flavor at that point. So again, just, you know, and it doesn't have to be just, you don't want them to be too big, because you want to be able to things to meet up on a chip. So
it's funny you're talking about Philadelphia cream cheese. One of my new additions when I make nachos at home is adding cream cheese to my nachos. So I'll actually infuse the nachos, you know, cilantro, sage. So instead of some people put sour cream afterwards, we actually mix it up, throw the cream cheese on the nachos, pop it in the oven. Whoa. So it's a soft, still soft, it holds its shape, but at that warm, you know, cream cheese texture along with some jack cheese, it's really
the best thing. It's like when you think of jalapeno poppers or things like that. It's just such an amazing flavor, and it's just, I love cream cheese because, albeit a processed cheese, let's think out of the sink. It doesn't have a lot of fillers, and especially you can buy some organic ones.
Yes.
Cabot makes a really nice one out of Vermont, Cabot Creamery. So it is. It's one of those ingredients that it just kind of holds everything together. I like to stuff chickens with it because you can add whatever flavors
Yep.
and it doesn't melt really. It softens, but it doesn't melt.
Yes,
so it's
so
like
it
goat
holds.
cheese a lot.
Yes.
So we have all these great things, and just going to kind of mash this up a little bit.
Is this how you like the crostinis? A little
I'll
more?
go a little bit more, almost
Okay.
there. And again, I like to use the crostinis too. Another thing that's kind of cool about them is it mimics the roll on the sausage sandwich, you know?
Like you said, you have to have that crunch.
Yeah.
If you've got the
exactly.
dip, you need that contrast in textures.
And we're just going to work this a little bit. You can certainly, if you're making this in a larger batch, you could put it in like a KitchenAid or a mixer, and just kind of with the paddle attachment. And but you know, again, it's casual food. You don't have to go crazy mixing it up. But we're going to do that. Now you'll notice I didn't add any extra real salt or pepper to this because that sausage has so much salt in it already.
Yes.
The cream cheese is a little bit salty. We're going to put Parmesan on top, which is again,
yep.
you know, the king of salt, I feel like. So we'll just take a casserole dish or anything. You can use like a glass Pyrex. And our dip is kind of put together. Just kind of
So like you said, this is one of those where you can do some of the prep ahead of time.
You can literally make the whole dip, and then a day or two before, put it in your refrigerator. And then all I suggest is bring it up to room temp before you throw it in the oven. So pull it out of the oven. I pull it out of the fridge an hour and a half or so before you're ready to cook, and you can literally just have it, boom, ready to go, fire it right in the oven. So we're gonna put, that's not blood, that's a piece of pepper, don't worry. Wipe that off. So once we have the dip kind of placed in somewhere there's a camera, we're gonna put some shredded mozzarella on here. And you could use fresh mozzarella. Again, you could use Jack cheese, you could use cheddar cheese, you could use American cheese if you wanted to. I like the mozzarella tends to get a nice brown to it. And it has a nice kind of mild flavor, so it's not going to kind of overpower.
Sure.
So like a really nice aged cheddar. And then the Parmesan is a couple things. It's kind of a salt component we want. It does brown up very nicely. And it just also adds such great like umami flavor. So the Parm is kind of the last thing, and this is going to almost kind of like make like a shell you have to like kind of rip through.
Yes. Get this out of here.
So yeah, we can pull out those.
Okay.
And those are great. That's how I kind of like them, a little toasty, a little brown.
Yep.
We're gonna fire this dip in here, let that cook up, and again, just looking that to be nice and golden brown. And this is something, I mean, you know, once you have that cream cheese element in there, you can do anything. You know, spinach and artichoke dip, hearts of palm. We have a new restaurant we're putting in our dairy property at LaBelle Winery. It's called Americus. Gonna be opening mid-May. And we're going to buy beautiful spring artichokes, poach them in white wine, and stir those into the dip with little hearts of palm, fresh spinach from a farm, things along those lines. And what I'll do is we'll make our own creme fraiche in big batches, and instead of the sour cream, we'll fold the creme fraiche into that. Gives it a little more oomph, goes with the wine and the artichokes. So obviously the food here is a little more family friendly. So you're not putting, you know, the booze in there and things like that. But something that goes really nice in this dip too is when you saute the sausage, you can always deglaze the pan with a little beer.
Yep.
You know, something lighter like a lager or, you know, even like a light IPA, not a double IPA, and just a little bit, and it adds a little bitterness to it too and cooks out. So that kind of offsets the sweetness of the peppers. Again, it's something you can do. You want to keep it, you know, family friendly. You don't have to. It does cook out the alcohol, so it's really not a big problem. So this is kind of some of the stuff you're going to see on our menu at Americus once we open up.
Great.
Some cool, you know, we're going to really kind of utilize the brick oven, beautiful like brick oven roasted olives on our homemade hummus. You know, we're going to do kind of upscale contemporary American cuisine with some global twists. So I've always been, for like 2 years now, I've been trying to figure out how to do like a really fun play on like, you know, the old school baked haddock with the Ritz cracker crumbs all over it and stuff. So we'll probably do like a nice line caught cod roasted in the oven, put over brandade with like chorizo breadcrumbs on it or something on those lines. So The restaurant we're kind of developing is all about, taking really comfortable, beautiful flavors native to the region of the area and kind of putting a spin and a twist on them. So really looking forward to that. It's coming mid-May, Derry, New Hampshire, LaBelle Winery.
And you mentioned olives. A funny story
Yep.
is my wife would not eat olives, no matter what type of olives we bought. So we traveled to Tuscany, Italy for a friend's wedding about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, everything, olive oil, olives, and the
Yeah.
olives are right in there. And, everyone around is just eating it. And I'm like, you got to try. She's like, I don't like olives. I don't like olives. So finally got her to try one. And she's like, oh, my God. It's like, this is so different. And, just like anything, it's like you may find something that you think you don't like, but some of it is both in where it's grown, how it's prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you love olive oil.
Yeah.
So you may have had some olives with too much brine, and that may have turned you off. If you try some of these things a little bit cleaner,
Yeah.
they're a lot better. And then again, so now I'm allowed to cook with olives.
That's great.
So that was something that was just off the, was not
And
allowed.
it's so important, you find that flavor, because the olives are one of those ingredients where there's so many wide flavor varieties.
Yes.
The oil cured olives are musty and dark and big. Then you have your Cerignolas, or big and fruity and kind of lighter, and your Castelvetranos kind of have a little more earthy flavor to them. So, then there's always one of my favorite guilty pleasures, I always say, are those nasty sliced black olives in a can. But you put those on nachos or something,
Yeah.
and they have their place.
Yes.
I love them on pizza, things like that. But again, it doesn't take away a really brine, forward fruity Kalamata or something like that.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that it is a pickled fruit, but it has a shelf life. It's going
Yes.
to taste a lot different.
Yes.
3 weeks after it's brined and pickled versus a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be bad. It's just going to be very different. So
Yeah.
that's what people kind of forget. So it's like wine. If you have a wine with a bottle age versus a very young wine, coming just out of tank, and it wasn't in a cast oak very long or something like that. So it's definitely interesting. People kind of forget. People are just so, I think, attuned to going to the supermarket and buying something and tasting the same way every time. And so that's what's beautiful about cooking with fresh produce and
Yes.
vegetables. Your carrots from the spring are different from your carrots in the fall if they're coming from the same area and things like that. And tomatoes, are huge.
Oh, yes.
So
See, I was growing up and not a big fan of tomatoes.
Yep.
I think some of the tomatoes that I was introduced first were, highly manufactured and
hybridized beefsteak
Yes.
tomatoes that
Yes.
are ripening on a truck coming over
exactly
from California.
not,
or
not
from
on a
Florida.
vine. And
Yeah.
and even the texture of those types
Yeah.
of tomatoes, the ones that came in the 3-pack with
Yep.
the cellophane bag and the green little package.
I
people
remember those
remember.
well.
And then again, you get introduced to a friend of mine had a garden,
Yep.
and he's like, have a tomato, and he just same thing. He handed me, put olive oil, a little
Yep.
salt and pepper. He's like, here, eat it just like an apple, and it was just delicious. And from then, I'm like, where do I find these?
Yeah.
It's like, can I only get them from your garden? He's like, no, this is what a tomato tastes like.
Exactly.
This is,
And I think it's good to see restaurants and people in their homes kind of straying more towards cooking. It's just about there.
Yeah.
Cooking more seasonally.
Yes.
Nothing incesses me more than going to a restaurant in February and they talk about all the seasonality and you're serving me asparagus.
Yeah.
And that asparagus came from Peru. And great, it's probably delicious, it's prepared well. But, give me a root vegetable that's been cellared 20 miles from here or something along those lines. And, there is a time and a place for certain things, but that's where preserving comes in and pickling and freezing and things along those lines. So it's good to see people kind of coming back to seasonality of, and I think we were spoiled for such a long time there because of the transportation system, and you could get anything at any time, you
Yes.
know. People call me up. I get this one guy from Honolulu Fish Company calls me up at least once a week trying to sell me, yellowfin tuna, and it's probably beautiful, but I can get it right out of the North Atlantic that's coming into Gloucester or Scituate
Yes.
and not have to have it flown. Think about the carbon footprint that
Yeah.
creates and things like that. So to be able to get a beautiful product local, it kind of bothers me a little bit when you see people sourcing
Well,
stuff.
if you say, living in the Boston area,
Yeah.
seafood, we have some of
Yeah,
the
some
best,
of the best.
seafood.
Absolutely.
Everyone thinks like lobsters in Maine, but there's some great fish, and
Yeah.
and
You
we're so
know.
lucky. It's like, every time I have people come visit, even if it's from Florida or Midwest, it's like they want to go out, they want to have New England seafood.
Yeah,
and-
and that's what's the best,
Yeah.
Like there's nothing better than like an oyster in July that's, right out of the water in Duxbury 40
Yeah.
miles away or something. It's really great.
Yeah.
I think our dip is just about where it needs to be. So I'm going to grab this towel here, pull this up. You can see we're starting to bubble
Looks
up.
nice.
You're looking for those bubbles along the side and that color on top. Now, as far as a garnish on this, you can put any kind of herbs or anything you want. You could put some more crumbled sausage, things along that. I mean,
Ooh, you can smell that sausage coming through.
Really, the fat's coming out.
Yeah.
We're just going to kind of let this kind of roll as is. I don't really think it needs much. And
No, that looks beautiful.
so that's it. That's the third and final Super Bowl recipe here. I hope you'll be able to utilize some of this stuff for the students and the faculty. And you know, thank you very much for inviting me into your kitchen. It was really fun to play with this stuff. It's always good to give a little bit back. I'm going to go visit my brick out in front of the multi-use facility on my way out, you know.
But this is great. Thank you very much,
Super.
Peter. This is awesome.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
You're
This
welcome,
looks
Jen.
amazing.
You don't want to try this on camera?
I do
No?
not, but
Okay,
thank you.
super.
It looks amazing, and I can't wait to try this at home with my own family. So thank you
Fantastic.
very much. And you know, to your comments about the seasonality, I mean, I feel very grateful to be here in New England because we have such a wide variety of the seasons and the vegetables and the things that can be produced here. So
Yeah, it's really great. You
fortunate.
know, there's beautiful pasture lands to raise animals on for dairy and meat, and I mean, amazing seafood, obviously, and then there's a lot of vegetables and stuff too. It's just, you know, people just need to kind of look for a little more, and you know,
Yeah,
people
and explore the region.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Really.
you know,
Yeah.
I'd like to spend myself a little less time on Netflix, a little more time visiting farms. I feel like if a lot of people took that kind of cue, you'll be feeding your families and yourselves a little bit better and fresher, and you know, you'll be helping those farmers too, and to grow their business. And the bigger they get, I think you'll start seeing their stuff in supermarkets and kind of be a little more commonplace for people to kind of get these local, really well-raised products and know where your food came from. I think that's really important.
Very important, and it sort of all then just comes full circle.
Circle of life.
So circle of life.
Circle
So,
of life.
well, thank you again, gentlemen, and I'm hoping our audience will follow up and check out these recipes. We're going to have these posted on our website on austinprep.org/alumni. You're going to find the recipes there. And then you'll also find our next program in the Austin Prep Presents series, which is going to be with Felicia Giuliano Kennedy from the class of 2009. Felicia is a realtor, local realtor here, and she is going to walk us through the steps of first-time home buying and talk to us about what the market looks like for 2021. So I hope you'll all join us for that program, which will happen on Tuesday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. So again, thank you, gentlemen, and we'll look forward to having you back here, Peter, to do something else here in the kitchen with Todd.
Absolutely, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys can find me at LaBelle Winery up in Amherst, New Hampshire. Is currently opened. Our new location is opening at Derry
in May,
early
I
summer.
think you said for the
May, the restaurant and market will be open in mid-May. Event center will be open in early April. So you can have your Easter brunch there. We'll be open for that. It's probably one of our first events. So we're really looking forward to that. We're building a good team up there. www.labellewinerynh.com is where you can find me. If you come to the restaurant, ask for me, say hello, I'll come out and chat with you. Unfortunately, we don't have sausage dip on our menu, but we got some other fun stuff. Find you plenty of stuff to nosh on up there.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.